Hi, this is Michael Schenker. You're listening to rockmusicstar.com.
This is another exclusive Rock Music Star interview. Conducted by Thomas S. Orwat Jr.
Hello, thank you for visiting us here at rockmusicstar.com. I'm Thomas, and I just conducted an interview with one of the most talented and influential guitarists in rock music, Michael Schenker. During this interview, we discussed Michael's upcoming North American tour, his upcoming release, his time in UFO and the Scorpions, and much, much more. So here he is, Mr. Michael Schenker. We are on the phone with legendary guitarist Michael Schenker. Michael Schenker, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm talking to Michael Schenker, one of my heroes. I mean, it's a great day over here.
Fantastic.
Yes, I want to start off the interview by going right into your tour, your U.S. tour that's starting on April 15th. You start at the Whiskey A Go-Go. This is the Michael Schenker Fest, which is quite an undertaking. It features four of your vocalists, Robin McCauley, Graham Bonnet, Gary Barden, and Doogie White. How difficult was it to coordinate all this? I mean, this is very unorthodox, going out on a tour with four vocalists.
Yeah, it's. I always say when the student is ready, the master will show, or when the conditions for it to rain, it will rain. And so, because it was so, I had this idea after Temple of Rock, after we took a break, that I realized that I haven't, I performed the most popular music of Michael Schenker all these years, but not with the original singers, And so I thought, wow, the third part of my life, that would be a great thing to do, to have at least singers from the 80s, sing to the original music that I composed. And so we just went ahead calling up people, and it was like they were waiting for the phone call. It was just incredible, the response and the cooperation and how we started off in 2016 in Sweden Rock, and in baby steps we developed towards making a DVD in Japan. Then the DVD was the big, had that big impact of the potential to show the world the potential of this undertaking. And then the record deals were coming in, and then of course the next step was making a record, and then we ended up with the completion of the Resurrection album, and we started our first leg last year in the States and in Canada, and this is the second leg of the Resurrection tour. Because of the success that we had, and we hadn't played, and we didn't play all the we didn't finish and play all the. There's a lot of places we didn't play, so we added all of that to the second leg of the Resurrection tour. And as we actually, since we played in America last year, we have played in Japan, we have played in Europe, and we played the UK. And every time we played, another tour, we kind of slightly changed the set, and you don't really notice that until I'm sending my organization the set list, and I'm realizing how different the set list is. So even the people who heard, who have already seen this show last year, they're getting a different show, and which is kind of great. It's different, but it's not a completely different thing, but it's like different enough to kind of wow, it has a twist to it, and so it's the second leg, and we had a lot of success with the album, and everything is going well. So basically, we have a situation that is very unique and I don't think it actually exists on this planet. And people keep asking me, guitarists or even interviewers, the guitarist, hey, Michael, I can't even get on with one singer. How do you manage with four? And it just works, I guess if it's meant to be, it works.
Yeah, I mean, that was my next question. I mean, it must be difficult to try to, like, organize a concert with four singers. I mean, I'm sure all the singers want to be in the spotlight all the time, so... But
yeah, but, I have a vision of how and what to do, and I have a vision of how I want the album to sound, what elements I want in it. I'm the designer, and I'm the director. It's like making a movie, and so you have to have a person in charge, and then I have a co-producer who's very good, and we inspire each other, and we just kind of, take everything step by step, and things just develop, and and then, with the Resurrection album, when I put the second song on the table, Michael Foss, the co-producer, he next morning I come to the studios, he says, look, I did some lyrics and some melodies to your second composition that you put out yesterday, and when I listened to it, I went like, Michael, this is genius. This is fantastic. It became an old song. Everybody was singing something. It became Warrior, and I couldn't believe that Michael Foss actually, got that together overnight, and it's almost like master tailored for each singer singing their line, and then when we were in the studio and mucking about. And it was the early stages. I couldn't believe how much fun these guys were having with each other. I mean, singers. That's unbelievable. And so I asked myself this question many times myself, like what you asked me. But that's what I say. It's something that's meant to be, and people want to do. It works.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure many of the singers that you work with, I mean, the highlight of their career is working with you. So I'm sure they're like, willing to take a little more than they usually would. You also have a new album coming out called Revelation. How does this album differ from Resurrection, or is it kind of like, the next step?
Yeah, and so I write the way I write. I have a concept of what I want, to make sure to have a reference point. It should never get boring. It has to be snappy, fast, energetic, melodic, and it just needs to be fresh as well. And so, I always play and discover, like treasure hunting. When I find a piece of gold, I put it on the cassette recorder. They're usually just little pieces of 5 seconds, a riff or something. And when I make an album, I never listen to all of the pieces that I had put down over the period of time. I just start from the beginning, and when I get to 12, I stop. And so the next bunch, I don't know what's there. And I could go for the best, but then the second album would be only second best, So I just trust. I only put pieces down that are great anyway. Otherwise, I wouldn't put them down. But there's sometimes, a riff is really, really good, and or somebody does something really, really good to something that is also quite good, but because of the input and the chemistry of who is dealing with what, who is picking which song. So you don't really know who is going to sing what ahead of time, but you start somewhere. And so, we had, like 6 months since the UK tour and the second leg of the Resurrection tour starting on the 15th. I said to myself, I'm not going to sit around and wait and do nothing. This band, is hot and is getting on and is doing great stuff, and it's a unique situation. It's a show that is uncommon on this planet, as far as I know. It's a hard thing for people to do if they really want to do it. This is something that happened naturally. And so when I sat down and said to Nuclear Blast, I want, I'm going to do the next album now. I have this time, and it's a good time. It's 6 months, and there is no disturbance in between, so I can focus. And so I started writing, and I noticed that right in the choruses, they are a little bit more melodic in general than on the last album. And also Graham Bonnet, this time he said, like, I want to write my own lyrics and my own melodies. And he did a fantastic job. I tell you, his personality comes across, and it's like hymn stuff, It's like it's really majestic what he put together. And then as usual, Dookie, he immediately picked the songs he wanted. He was the first one, like last time, and he did everybody did a great job. And so it, to answer your question, we did already do a listening session, and there was a mention by some interviewer who said, Michael, when I listened to Resurrection, we did the listening session, and we invited international press and to let them in on the new album. And so he said, when I listened to Resurrection, it made me happy. When I listened to Revelation, I want to party. That's the difference.
Yeah, no, it's, I find it very fascinating that not only have you influenced like millions of guitarists, but you're also you're such an innovator, and you're able to come up with such a unique concept, and it's so cool, especially for your fans to see all those vocalists doing the songs. I just really have to give you a lot of credit for coming up with these just amazing ideas. And do you feel that at this point of your career that you're kind of like the happiest you've been in a while? I mean, you've really been getting a lot of great
because
comments.
it goes. I have discovered my life design. I know exactly now what happened and what had to happen the way it did happen. I have 2 tattoos on the back of my, on the back on my shoulders, and one says "Born to be free" and one says "Born to overcome." So it goes hand in hand. You can't be free unless you overcome. So when my first part of my life, I didn't know who I was. I was just having fun. I wasn't chasing anything. I wasn't competing. I wasn't looking for fame or anything. I just had fun playing lead guitar, basically combining notes that would create goose pimples, Mm-hmm. And so I was just doing that over and over until I reached the Strangers in the Night and Love Drive period, and at that point, I realized, at that point, people were actually saying Michael Schenker is God, and I did not know what to do with that. It was, and then I found out how many people were actually copying my guitar style, and it was just like. And it took from Lonesome Crow until Love Drive, 7 or 8 albums, 8 years or something like that. And I completed that part, and I was granted to experience fame, so that I was able to realize if I wanted to carry on in the on the road of fame, or if I wanted to rather be experiment with music, get things out of my system, and keep doing a pure self-expression, and learn about life and learn about having just basically find out who I am and what's going on, etc. Yeah. And so I wrote a song called "Into the Arena." So basically, that was the introduction. It's onto the battlefield, Michael. Here you go. School of life, and get things out of your system, learn who you are. I made, breakthrough programs. I had self-development programs, leadership and self-expression, and subliminal tapes, and all sorts of things. And I was thirsty doing that kind of stuff because I really I really wanted to learn and have realizations, etc., etc. And so I kept, and of course, Scorpions, UFO, or Ozzy Osbourne, or any other band who wanted me to join them, they would have gone crazy I mean, I tell you that they would have not liked me being there because everything had to turn out the way it turned out, because my experimenting was so crazy and over the top. It would have not fitted anywhere, you know. And so, but I just went through all of that, and I'm so grateful for the middle years, because, you know, I didn't reach out for commercial success, but instead I was granted fulfillment, you know, and that for me is much more valuable. And so basically, by staying very true to myself, there's a saying, if you're true to yourself, the rest will be added onto you and more. This is exactly what's happening to me. You know, it's like I have created a cake, and now I get a lot of icing. And so in 2008, I all of a sudden had the urge to be on stage. I was always stage fright. I could not understand why I all of a sudden wanted to be on stage. And I took that as a sign, you know, that the school of life is over, back to the roots. You are 18 again, and here we go. You carry on where you started. And this is a fantastic feeling. It's basically, I learned, you know, so much, and I understand who I am today. I understand my life structure, how it was put together, why it was put together, and the way it was put together. It was so perfect. And so coming out, starting the third part of my life from 2008, when I all of a sudden felt like I want to be on stage, you know, that was a 180-degree turn. And so now I'm a frontman. I was the shy little guy, you know, when I was starting, focusing on my music when I was, you know, a teenager, and turned into, you know, this person now. And so to answer your question, of course, you know, once you have understood a lot of stuff that you had questions for, and you have fulfilled, and you have been true to yourself, and you get rewarded with all of that stuff that I could have gone for first, which would have been only icing but no cake. Yeah. I would have had no cake to put the icing on. So now I have the cake, I have the foundation, and I can put the icing. I can do anything I want now because I got everything out of my system. I could start playing saxophone now if I wanted to, but I don't want to do that. I want to do the Michael Schenker Fest, and that is a perfect celebration as a third stage of my life.
Yeah, if you did do the saxophone, you'd probably take that to a different level too. I want to ask you, you know, obviously a lot of people started following you in UFO, and with UFO being on their farewell tour right now, was there ever any discussion of you know, joining up with UFO for one last hurrah with them?
No point. No point. It's all too incomplete. You know, there is no. You know, the first of all, I can't do anything with the Scorpions or UFO unless it would be the original lineup. Secondly, I would not join the organization. Period. I mean, I would not leave my place that I have. You know, where I'm operating from. And so I said to Phil, basically I bump into Phil all the time. We live very close to each other. He moved even closer to me now than he was before. The one day he was walking down the street, I said, Phil, there's no escape. He's even so much closer now. And I saw this morning, his wife or partner, Emma, you know, and I was waving at her, and then when I was going back to town again, I saw both of them, but I think Phil saw me in the corner of the eye and quickly disappeared somewhere.
Oh, wow.
So, it's so funny, honestly, it's so funny. It's out of the whole world. We are stuck here, very close. Who knows what life has still got to offer. I said to Phil, at some point when I bumped into him, I said, I said it to him, but I say it in general to everybody. There is more UFO if Phil and I get together than there is what Phil has with UFO right now with Paul Raymond and Andy Parker. I mean, I said, hey, Phil, why don't you join the Michael Schenker Fest? There is more UFO in you and me than there is what you do with UFO, what you call UFO, and so that's a fact, because the part of UFO that is meaningful is the part when I was in the band. And UFO was then already on the way to become the biggest band in the world, and would have been today still the biggest band in the world. But it was not what was meant to be, and we don't know how life will end, because we're not at the end yet, even though, you're 60 years old, but we are not 60, we are maybe 40, because 50 years ago, it was people were 60, but the people are 60 now. They are still 40, because things have changed. People live longer, and the way everything develops, etc., etc. So we don't know what's around the corner. What's yet the whole story, about this is, and what it develops into. It's every day is a new day with surprises, and life is so cleverly designed. I mean, it's just amazing. And so I'm always very, very excited about what's around the corner. Sometimes something really bad happens, like which you all probably already know, our dear friend and great drummer Ted McKenna passed away on the 19th of January. He was scheduled in for the 24th of February. He goes, into for a routine operation. Herman Rebel did the same operation. You walk in, you think you're out an hour later, and that's it. He bled to death and died, and he never came back out. This made me so mad. You don't know what happened, why it happened, etc., etc. And so it's really something that is hard to deal with, and so the only thing I can do is really say, Ted is such a heart, he played drums with heart, music was all heart. So I see him, I see him up there and go, I can hear him, Michael, keep on rocking, So I look at it that way and keep it positive, and we ended up, finishing the album. We have Simon Phillips on drums to answer the question again, what is different on this album. And Simon Phillips is a fantastic drummer, one of the best in the world, and he plays with Toto, and he played with Jeff Beck, and he was the first drummer of the Michael Schenker group. And so because of that sudden situation of Ted passing away, and we were in the middle of recording and getting ready for the second leg of the Resurrection tour. We had to figure out how to do this, and it was really interesting. It's everything keeps coming by itself. It's kind of so strange. All of a sudden, the idea was about Simon Phillips was there in Bordeaux shops. And because you have to, the set is 150 minutes. It's a lot of songs, to learn for in that amount of time, and then 13 songs for the album. You can't do that with one drummer, so we decided to. Simon Phillips wouldn't have been available for touring anyway. So we decided, between Bordeaux and Simon, that Simon does 10 songs on the album and Bordeaux does 3 songs. And then I took Bordeaux with me to the UK, and then we worked our butts off to get this live show together. I actually just rehearsed with him alone for many, many days. Just drums and guitar, and so to get the flow of the show. It's very important. And luckily he also reads, he has a way of reading drums, so it's really good. It all came, it all worked out. And then we had the last rehearsal on the 24th with everybody here in the UK. And we do another 3 full rehearsals in Los Angeles on the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th is the Whiskey Go-Go. And so, you know, Simon Phillips did a fantastic job, so did Bordeaux, and Bordeaux is ready to rock and do that live show, just as, you know, as if there was nothing happening, you know.
Yeah. And
Bordeaux is obviously the drummer that used to be with Michael Schenker, so it's all family. It's still all state family, and and that's basically how that is another addition to your question: how different is the album? And you know, the personality of Simon and Bordeaux, you know, it gives it a twist, and by having actually 4 songs, we had 4 songs. We call them all songs, where everybody sings, and we did 3 this time. Last time we only managed 2. This time we managed 3. When we got to the 4th one, some things got complicated. Plus, we were, you know, I had a list of guests that I wanted to put on. We scrapped it all because of Ted's situation, and we were under pressure. And so I said to Michael, the co-producer, forget about the guests. You know, I want to focus on this album, make this album great, and that's it. And so when we get to the 4th song, there were some complications, and it was getting time, you know, to get focus on completing. Michael Voss said, like, here, I have an idea for this song. You know, why don't we just? I have this guy I used to I just recently worked with called Ronnie Romero, who is singer with Richie Blackmore, to sing the song. I'm gonna call him, asking him if he wants to do it. And he said, I would be delighted. It would be an honor for me to do this. And so that was so fantastic, because he also did such a great job with that song. And so we have actually a guest singer. We ended up with a guest singer that we didn't expect, you know.
Wow.
And that's fantastic. I mean, it's these little elements, they pop up, you know, and they all make sense. And so we ended up with this album where, you know, I don't know if I already said that, but the one interviewer said, like, when I listen to Resurrection, it makes me happy. When I listen to Salvation, I want to party, you know, so that's the difference.
Yeah. Michael, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah.
Okay, the last question I have for you, Michael, is, once again, in regards to you being such an influential guitarist, I can't believe that you're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet. Does that upset you at all?
You know, I never focused on fame. And I never focused on money. I never focused on competing with anybody, being number one. Never, ever, any of that. So if you're not that kind of person, how can you, you know, miss something like that? And instead of, you know, running for, I got my fulfillment, you know, instead of commercial success. But if you stay true to yourself, half a century of not copying not listening to music, I stayed firm and true to myself, and you know, it says everything will be added onto you and more. I mean, if you go the right way around and you create, you follow your heart, and you do for your heart first, then you are in the place. And again, what's meant to be will happen. You know, it is. You know, it is you know, well, that's all I can say. What's meant to be will happen. And I trust in the creator of the universe, the creator of all creations, to, you know, let that happen, what needs to happen. And I don't make big questions. I don't ask myself, you know, why. I mean, I could be wondering why, you know, like some people who can really hardly play an instrument but made it really big, you know, I should question that, but I don't, you know. There must be a reason for that, why some people end up with a really, really big success, but they're average musicians, you know. So I don't really question those things, and because number one is I already got rewarded. I enjoy complete fulfillment. If you have that, you don't really need anything, especially if you didn't go that direction in the first place. You know, I started off just simply having fun with my guitar. And I can imagine that many people, they start off and reaching for, for the fame, for that commercial success that gives them all of that stuff that some people dream about, crazy lifestyle. And, I just said to myself just recently, rock and roll is a what did I say? It seems like people want more rock and roll than music. People are dreaming more about the crazy life, the obnoxious lifestyle. It's just crazy that people are so obsessed with becoming a rock star so they can get away and do things that are obnoxious. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. It's like in the end, people hardly talk about music. They talk about how crazy they were.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're writing fiction books.
Yeah.
Books. There are just fiction stories in there to entertain the people and make up stories so that they can, have a reason, so they can make the book big enough and exciting enough. Because maybe without adding things to it, it wouldn't maybe sound too good. So it's all crazy stuff. That side of rock, the rock and roll, that side of that whole stuff that I fell in love with, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath. The real meaning of music, that sound, that John Bonham drums. That was what counts, not the bloody crazy throwing television out of the hotel room. We could have killed somebody. I mean, people are crazy.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Michael,
they're obsessed with that stuff, but I'm not. So
yeah,
you be careful what you wish for. You may find out what you wished for is not what you wanted.
A good way to end. Michael, thank you so much for the interview. I'm looking forward to seeing you on May 7th when you play in Toronto. It's going to be an amazing show. And again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. I hope that you enjoyed our interview with Michael Schenker. If you have any comments, please send them to me at thomas@rockmusicstar.com. And also, please check out my site, rockmusicstar.com, for more exclusive interviews, concert reviews, and photos.